I should talk about what this quest really kind of is, and I think the most obvious read for that, as far as metaphor goes, is race.
This is a town full of peace-loving ghouls, so check your bigotry at the door.
Roy isn't some random raider. He's just a guy who shows up and gets told that there's no room in this building for people who look like him. Michael Masters makes a joke about how he can't smell anymore and how that's a good thing for him in this particular situation. But really, that's a guy who has actively lost one of his senses and is doing his best to make dark humor out of it to cope.
What?
Now Bessie, Roy's ghoul friend, she's actually a very sweet lady. If you actually talk to her, she talks about how she used to be pretty and all the boys used to come around, and how she just wants to feel normal again.
They're just like humans. They feel, they hurt, they bleed.
These people are not monsters. These are people who got dealt the absolute worst hand in this entire apocalypse and are just trying to find a place to sleep and somebody to love.
They deserve the same love and respect as any human, and don't you forget it. At least that's what they programmed me to say. Personally, I think they're a bunch of rotting zombie maggot farms, and I'd send them all back to hell if I could. Damn this combat inhibitor! Go, Underworld! Go, ghouls! Eh! Damn this pansy zombie programming!
Hey everybody, about a month ago, a YouTuber by the name of Devin in HD made this video titled Tenpenny Tower is morally impossible. In his video, he lays out parts of this age-old quest from Fallout 3 and goes into why he feels like there's no good or moral way to solve it, or good or moral outcome to it, totally failing to see the actual dynamics of the factions involved in the quest and potentially what the quest tries to tell you. Now in this video, we're going to dive into the Tenpenny questline plus Fallout 3 lore to prove why he's wrong. Part of this will be in direct response using clips of his videos so you can see the full context of what he's saying with no misrepresentations, and, well, to be honest, also so you can see how many things he got wrong or didn't even bother to show you guys in his video despite having it tagged as a video essay. But before we do, just a bit of context on how this even came to my attention. It was because I was browsing social media and I saw this post making fun of him. I blurred out some of the words for the sake of certain words this early in the YouTube video being problematic for the TOS, but I'm pretty sure that you guys can make it out yourselves. When I saw this, I thought that it was rage bait or trolling from the poster. I didn't believe that there could be someone who could actually make that argument. So I decided to watch the video for myself, and yeah, it ended up being pretty bad, so I just had to make this. After all, it's right up my alley. Fallout is one of my favorite things, and I don't get to talk about it enough since Bethesda and Amazon are running it into the ground. This is going to be a long one featuring arguments from his video, further context from my own clips, and diving into the morality of the quest, so sit back, relax, and let's get right in there.
Behind me is Tenpenny Tower, home to one of the most morally ambiguous quests in all of Fallout 3. And I wanted to walk you through it today because I've been thinking about it since the first time I played through it. This is Roy Phillips, an ex-cop turned ghoul who lives out of the subway station not too far away from Tenpenny Tower. So Roy's whole deal is that he wants to live in Tenpenny Tower alongside of the rest of the humans, unlike in the subway station like literal rats do, which is honestly totally fair. This place is massive and there's gotta be a bunch of empty floors, so why wouldn't we let Roy stay here?
Sorry about the hard cuts in advance, it's part of his videos. Devin's entire video can kind of be totally broken right here, 39 seconds in. We'll still go over everything else, of course, including his take on the morals of the quest and the ghouls later on, but right here in the introduction, he already left out the most important thing about Roy Phillips. which is surprising because he knows enough to bring up the fact that Roy was an ex-cop. This information isn't even present in the game. There's no dialogue about it, no computer entry, no notes. It's something that is stated by the official guide printed by Prima Games. It says there that Roy is the leader of a group of ghoul dissidents, he's an ex-cop, and his no-nonsense black and white worldview has carried over into his new life as a ghoul for whom he demands respect. Devin paints him as just some ex-cop who turned ghoul and whose whole deal is that he wants to live in Tenpenny Tower with the rest of the humans because, well, the metro tunnels suck and the tower is really nice. But this is not it. Roy's whole deal is that he actually wants to wipe out every single human living inside the tower. He sees them all as bigots despite the majority of them being factually not bigots. And we'll get into all this context in a bit, but just as a little bit of a little sweet drop of something that's coming up, Roy isn't just this way towards the people in the tower who, according to him, have treated him very unfairly. He's like this towards any human, which does this kind of twist that Devin never mentions in his entire video, which is how there's a flip here. How you come into this quest and, you know, the superficial presentation is that it's a tower of bigots and there's a guy being turned away. But really deep inside, what you have is a twist where the victim, in this case Roy, is the actual bigot. But don't worry about it right now, we'll get there momentarily. Have a sip of iced tea. Aside from the part of him hating humans in general, this is the truth about Roy and it is revealed to you very early on. Devin talks about this but only later on, as if you can only find this out by the end of one of the solutions of the quest, in which Roy betrays the trust of the tenants and does exactly what he said that he would do. But really you find this out from the first ghoul that you meet when you head down the tunnels to speak with Roy.
You there! Put your weapons away! Come over here! No funny business, unless you want to get shot. What are you doing here? It's not safe for your kind around here. Oh yeah? Is he expecting you? Well then, run along. It's not wise to keep Roy waiting. Has a bit of a temper, that one. You watch yourself. I've been stomping around with Roy and his gang of misfits. Roy's a no-nonsense, take-no-prisoners kind of guy. He heard about this Tenpenny asshole, and now he's trying to get us in that tower. He's hatching some kind of plan to kill all those bigot bastards. Believe it or not, I used to vacation there.
This isn't even a hidden dialogue or something tucked away deep in some terminal entry locked behind a high hacking skill. It's the first conversation you have with the first ghoul that you meet, and right there and then he tells you plainly what Roy's plans and intentions are, which is kinda stupid in its own way. Like, why would you tell a stranger this?
This place is massive, and there's gotta be a bunch of empty floors. So why wouldn't we let Roy stay here? Roy walks away from the intercom and you're basically next up, and you get let in with literally no issues.
This is also something that somewhat misrepresents the whole deal with Tenpenny Tower and its residents. Devin paints this as if Roy is merely not being allowed in because he's a ghoul, whereas anyone else can just get in with no issues. While it is true that the residents of the tower don't want any ghouls coming in, they also don't just let any humans in. The security guards often keep undesirables away from the tower. There's even a homeless dude right outside that begs for water. Basically, if you are Wasteland trash, they don't want you coming into their place any more than any other resident of any other place would. There's really nothing wrong with this idea. I mean, you guys listening to this video right now would surely not be open to letting in any Wasteland trash into your homes either. But this very concept will be a major crutch in Devin HD's logic later in the video. Even you, the all-important lone wanderer, can't just get in willy-nilly. You have to either have business with Mr. Tenpenny, such as if you're doing the side quest for Mr. Burke in Megaton where you blow it up, or you gotta pay a hefty sum of 100 caps, which, to be fair, is not a lot of money for, the player character, but in the capital Wasteland, that's quite a bit of money. As far as I know, these are the only ways in. I've also heard of an exception where there's a speech check that I didn't get presented to me, where you can pretend to have business with Tenpenny. One way or another, You can't just go in because you're human. And here, let me show you guys what Tenpenny Tower is all about, okay? Here's what this place is like, okay? This is what it's all about. It's you coming from that utterly devastated wasteland outside the doors and walking into this.
Sweet Jesus, did you see the jugs on that brunette?
Okay, jokes aside though, genuinely the whole point of Tenpenny Tower is how clean it is. It's a place that is supposed to be something of a reminder of what the word civilized used to mean. It's meant to be clean, healthy, safe, and orderly, also classy. And keeping it that way is not easy. There's other places in the Fallout universe that are kind of like this, where you enter and it's like, whoa, this is something else. I don't have any footage of it, but for example, some of the businesses in the New Vegas Strip are like that. Except they usually have some kind of dark, deep twist about them. Tenpenny Tower has got to be one of the few places that doesn't have that. Like, there's no deep, dark secret in this tower, there's no basement full of bodies, there's no skeletons in the attic, there's no top secret research facility run by a shadowy group. It's just genuinely a nice, safe, healthy, and orderly place to live. You know, if you can put up with the boredom and the posh people inside. It's just that there's some rules with living here. The people who live here have to earn their way inside. In other words, you have to be rich. You also have to be somewhat healthy.
People are healthy here. They eat well and have a strong roof over their head. Tenpenny is very selective about who he allows to live here. The correct genes and living conditions make for a relatively disease-free environment. Clean water is still a concern, of course. But we've got enough chems to keep the radiation sickness at bay. That's why he won't allow those ghouls to live here. Why introduce a weakness into a healthy system?
If you got a lot of money, but you have some contagious disease, you can't get in. If you are a perfect specimen, but you can't afford the rent, you gotta get out. It is what it is. It's basically a hotel, which is kind of perfect because before the war, Tenpenny Tower functioned as a hotel of sorts too. There's other people who can get in for other circumstances too. For example, you can go in if you want to do some trading, provided that you pay your admission fee. There's also dialogues for trading caravans and other types of businesses that are allowed in, and lastly, dialogues for technicians and handymen whose services the tower also requires whenever something breaks down. They go in, they do their business, and they go out just like you do as the player character. The residents themselves pay rent to Tenpenny. It's not stated how much it is that they're paying, but they're paying quite a hefty sum to live inside the tower and make use of all its advantages.
Indeed. Everyone who lives here has worked hard to get here. That's why we can't just let those ghouls in. They demand the right to live here, but what have they done to prove themselves worthy?
He stays in his penthouse suite most of the time. So long as we pay the rent, he lets us live here. Pleasant day to you, dear.
Devin HD has a huge bias against these residents and Tenpenny himself, and it's going to show a lot later in the video as well. Here's how he frames the most straightforward solution to the quest.
Once you get up to the front desk, you talk to the guard there, and he tells you that they want to get rid of Roy. And they want to get rid of Roy because they don't want to deal with ghouls, and they don't want to see what Roy has up his sleeves if they don't. And that's where you as a player get to make a choice. Hooray! There are like 3 basic options that you can kind of choose in this quest to more or less decide the outcome. And I'm going to walk you through all of those options right here. So the first option, and the one Gustavo the guard is paying you for, is the most straightforward. You head down into the subway station and you find Michael Masters, and he tells you to put your gun down, and you can choose right then and there whether or not you want to start the fight. But if you hold off, he'll take you straight to Roy. Once you're there, you kill Roy, you kill his ghoul friend Bessie. Once you kill all of them, you walk back into Tenpenny Tower, you tell Gustavo you've done the job, then you get your caps, and you're on your merry way. All positive karma, hooray, yippee, woohoo. You get caps, you get a gun, and Tenpenny gets to stay up in his ivory tower and keep shooting at innocent Wastelanders for fun. Alistair Tenpenny, owner and operator of Tenpenny Tower, goes on what he calls a Wasteland safari, and by that, he means literally shooting at people from his tower with a sniper rifle, and injuring or killing whoever he wants to. So when you complete this option, really all you did was kill people who were looking for a new home and continue to let an old man get away with murder for sport. That's the positive option, by the way. That's all positive karma, baby.
So in his view, that's it. This solution is bad because all you did was take out people looking for a new home and allow an old man to keep being crazy and taking pot shots at Wastelanders down below from his balcony. At no point does Devin take into account the lives of the residents for this solution. Like, these people are just living their lives in the tower that they're paying rent in order to be safe from the dangers outside. A chunk of them are even older folks, and most of them can be convinced to change their minds and let the ghouls come in to live with them, which is direct proof that most of the residents don't even fit into Roy's accusation of them being bigots or ghoul haters. Devin also doesn't take into account the fact that no, those ghouls aren't just innocent little people looking for a new home. They are a band of misfits hatching a plan to get inside and wipe out dozens of innocent lives. Again, you learned this firsthand in your first conversation with Roy's gate guard. Roy also tells you plainly what he wants to do.
Biding our time, making plans, getting ready. Tenpenny and his pack of elitist wannabes can't keep us out of that tower forever. We've got rights, and we'll take them if they aren't given to us. Not sure where you come from, kid, but out here in the Wasteland, everything's up for grabs, and you only get to keep what you can hold on to. Tenpenny didn't build that tower. He found it, and took it from whoever used to own it. Now we're gonna take it from him. We tried playing nice, but they shot at us. Fuck them. It's time for them and their bigot ways to die.
It's just such a stupid part about his video. It's like, what do you mean? You just killed some people who were trying to find a home. Did you not listen to the dialogue, brother? Like, imagine you're playing Fallout 4 and, you know, you run into a raider settlement and you just wipe the whole raider settlement out, like, all of them. And then Preston Garvey gives you a lecture. General, those were just people looking for a home. You can't do this. Maybe right in the intro in Concord, you wipe out the raiders on your way to Preston, and instead of him being like, hey, Preston Garvey, Commonwealth middleman, thank you very much, he just goes, dude, you can't just do that, they were just people looking to make a home here at the museum. Devin, you crack me the up, man, keep it up. Now let's focus a bit on Tenpenny himself, since this is such a big issue for Devin HD as well. Let's repeat the clip where he presents Tenpenny.
You get caps, you get a gun, and Tenpenny gets to stay up in his ivory tower and keep shooting at innocent Wastelanders for fun. Alistair Tenpenny, owner and operator of Tenpenny Tower, goes on what he calls a Wasteland safari, and by that, he means literally shooting at people from his tower with a sniper rifle and injuring or killing whoever he wants to.
I don't want to sit here and do a Alistair Tenpenny is misunderstood video because he's not. Not exactly, there's just parts of him that are easy to miss. Most of Devin's description is fine, but he's missing so much more about the character, and I think a part of it is he alludes to skipping dialogues.
Here's one thing I didn't know about this quest when I first started it, is you don't have to talk to everybody. He does say, here's a list of 5 people, and I skipped that dialogue so quick. I did not care about listening to Tenpenny yet.
Which is just I mean, what are you doing, man? Look, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like this is a huge deal. This isn't real-life politics, no one's at stake here, it's just a video game video. But if you're going to do a video essay like this, and you're just going to focus on one quest with one set of characters, at least you could listen to those characters and try to understand them a little better so that you can present them more accurately to your audience instead of just rich old man bad because rich old man snipes at everyone from his balcony. Tenpenny isn't misunderstood in that he's an asshole, he's just misunderstood in how bad he is as a character. You know what I mean? It's not that he's bad, it's the degree of it. For example, the sniping. He doesn't exactly blast anyone that he sees, the tower would be doomed if he did. This place heavily relies on caravans to keep stocking the citizens of the tower with the good stuff. It also relies on outside help, as I said a bit ago. Those types of people are safe, though of course he will still take pot shots at anything that he might spot from the balcony, which means random wastelanders, bugs, mirelurks, robots, etc. Since he doesn't call out to anyone below, the truth is that yes, that might mean raiders, slavers, but also random innocent wanderers such as your character. That's undoubtedly a negative aspect of Tenpenny, but that aside, there really isn't much else that stands out as this big evil thing. Tenpenny isn't ever rude to anyone, you can even insult him to his face and he's not going to get crazy on you. Take this dialogue for example. He meets you for the first time and he asks you what do you think of his big tower.
So, what do you think of my fine tower here? It's quite the jewel of the Wasteland, isn't it? I dare say I'm quite proud of it myself.
And you can straight up crush him by saying, big f***ing deal, you didn't build it, you just found it and you moved in. And this is his response.
I say, must you be so caustic? Come now, a lot of work went into turning this husk of a tower into a place people can call home. I've had help, of course. Especially in Mr. Burke, an absolute gem of a man. He certainly has a way of getting done what needs to get done. Then it was a matter of getting the right type of tenants with the right type of assets, and the rest is, as they say, history.
He doesn't let it consume him, he doesn't blast you, he doesn't order his guards to kick you out or throw you out a window, he doesn't go full Tuco Salamanca on you for offending him, he just gets down to earth and explains that actually a lot of work went into making it what it is. Which goes back to what I was talking about before in regards to what Tenpenny Tower is all about and how it's not easy to keep it that way. The tower had to be repaired and cleaned up in order to look this pretty. Every bit of clean furniture, chandeliers, pristine doors, bathrooms, toilets, mirrors, windows, machines, you know, like refrigerators, computers, etc. all had to be either repaired or purchased. There's also structural damage on the outside that was repaired, which we can see from a distance. Electrical wiring, bug infestations, new generators to power it all up, etc. all had to be attained and maintained. So yes, Tenpenny isn't 200 years old, this isn't his tower, he found it, renamed it after himself because he's an eccentric asshole with an ego, but he still did put a lot of money and work to make it into what it is today. All of them who live there do. Something like Tenpenny Tower doesn't just fall from the sky, you don't just find it on the ground and you move in, you steal it. In order for your place to not look like a shithole in Megaton, you have to put in extra care and work. You have to invest into it and that investment never ends, because in order to keep this place running as is, there's a full staff of guards posted on every floor, plus outside. All these guards have to be well paid in order for chaos to not erupt. That is what these tenants are paying for.
Tenpenny is a classy place. Just look at me. Look at my shop. Can't find top shelf class like that anywhere else. Indeed, though Tenpenny has put a lot of work into restoring it, and he's hired security to keep us safe. But they seem to be having some trouble with a pack of ghouls living in the tunnels nearby. Don't suppose you've encountered many ghouls on your travels?
And goddammit, I can't look at them and see evil in them just because they want to live safely in an expensive place that provides that. I mean, holy shit, look at this. This is Margaret Primrose, one of the residents of the tower that also runs the cafe inside.
Hey, you're new around here. I'm Margaret Primrose. I run the Café Beau Monde. Stop by sometime. It's a great place to live. I've always dreamed of giving people fresh meals and a place to relax and enjoy a good conversation or two. Tenpenny gave me a place to do that. I'm greatly indebted to him for that. Indeed, everyone who lives here has worked hard to get here. That's why we can't just let those ghouls in. They demand the right to live here, but what have they done to prove themselves worthy? I guess I never thought of it that way. It's probably really hard just living day to day like that. Now I feel a little ashamed.
This is an old lady who literally just wants to be at peace, cooking some food and serving some customers while providing a nice space for them to chill out at. Like, please explain to me, why is it that I should hold contempt against her just because she's against letting in ghouls from outside who keep coming back to harass and threaten them and their way of life inside? Oh yeah, and by the way, threaten them. This is another thing that Devin leaves out.
Tell Tenpenny he can kiss my ass. We've got plenty of bottle caps. Let me in, goddammit.
How many times do we have to go through this? You're not getting in.
I can stand here all day yelling at you through this damn speaker if I have to.
I've already told you Tenpenny won't allow zombies to live here.
Who the hell are you calling a zombie?
You're definitely not human, that's for damn sure. For the last time, no zombies allowed.
Can't you tell the difference between me and a feral? Fine. I'll show you the goddamn difference. Just you wait. You'll get yours, all of you.
This is the first thing you see when you come to Tenpenny Tower. It's Roy arguing with Gustavo, the head of security there. But it's not the first time that Roy has done this. Him and his group have been continuously coming back to pester the residents of the tower time and time again for an unspecified amount of time. But enough time that residents like Margaret, Primrose, and others have started feeling nervous and afraid, taking the ghouls in the metro as an inevitable threat that will end up in some kind of clash, which is why they're so adamantly against the ghouls when you first speak to them. Each resident has two dialogues that you can ask about. One is their take on the ghoul situation, and the other is how is it to live at Tenpenny Tower. And despite this one being unrelated to the ghouls, every single one of the residents brings them up as a concern. Most of them are legitimately afraid of them, while others are antsy and hoping that the head of security stops them before something bad happens.
I'm sure it will end in bloodshed. It's serious business, comrade. Are you mocking me, comrade? Good to see you again, comrade. Well, comrade, things are great. The best of the best have made a community here. Well, there is that problem with the ghouls, but I think it'll be solved soon enough.
Chief Gustavo and his pack of goons aren't doing their job. Those ghouls keep coming back. Somebody's bound to get hurt sooner or later.
Some ghouls moved into the nearby metro tunnel. There's a bunch of the so-called feral ghouls in there, but a handful seem the sociable type. The intelligent ones should stay away from our trigger-happy protectors. If there are enough feral ones, though, they could overwhelm security.
Again with the ghouls! It's all anyone will gossip about. I can't help thinking about them doing things to us. Let's talk about something else.
It's very clean and safe here. Well, mostly safe. They say those ghouls won't get in, but I don't know. I wish I could. I get nightmares from time to time. They're living in the nearby tunnels. They scare me. Why doesn't somebody do something? Perhaps you're right, but I prefer to keep my nightmares a fantasy and not test my luck with the real thing.
And while it is easy to be like, they're just bigots, at the end of the day, were they right or were they wrong? That's right. They were right. And the writing was on the wall. It was on the wall. Again, the first time you meet these ghouls, you talk to them, they lay it out plainly.
We want to kill all the humans in the tower.
Is Gustavo offensive to Roy via the intercom thing? Yes. He says no zombies allowed, which is an insult to Roy. But that's no excuse to be violent.
Tenpenny and his pack of elitist wannabes can't keep us out of that tower forever. We've got rights, and we'll take them if they aren't given to us.
The only right they had? Right this way!
At the end of the day, the fact remains that this is someone's hotel. They have a strict code of who they allow in because there's standards of safety, cleanliness, health, and business that they uphold. And Roy and his ghoul friends just don't fit into that. Just like I don't fit into a 5-star resort. I could walk in with my best shorts and my best t-shirt that I picked up for $3 on a sale at Primark. The truth is, they're not going to let me in. They're not bigoted for it. I just clearly am not the clientele that can afford and fit into that place. Like, I'm not going to be able to afford the caviar and the bottle service. I'm not going to crash out about it. I'm just going to leave. Roy could have left, but he didn't. He doubled down, continued going back, pestering them to get in, and scoping out the place to find weaknesses for his plan to invade the tower with a bunch of ferals. This is why that first simple solution is the cleanest and most morally apt one. And the cherry on top for any players who, like Devin, hate Tenpenny with a passion and hate that if you go down this route, Tenpenny remains alive and taking pot shots from his balcony, is that you can just take Tenpenny out. You can go down to the tunnels, you can take out the ghoul gang and the ferals for good measure, you ensure the safety of the people in the tower, then you go back to the tower and you secretly take out Tenpenny. Just because Tenpenny is an asshole does not excuse that every other innocent person in the tower should die because some zombies felt bad.
Damn this pansy zombie programming.
And one last thing about Tenpenny, because I was talking about him and drifted off into this. Here's another interesting thing about him. Many people assume that Tenpenny is also the big bad behind the whole nuking Megaton business. Again, this isn't a video about how Tenpenny is misunderstood. It's just a bit of extra context about Tenpenny's character, the things that he has actually done, and something that'll also very interestingly play into Roy and how he is just as bad or even worse than Tenpenny, but again, Devin doesn't bring it up.
I complained offhand one day about how I thought that heap of metal on the horizon was a bit of an eyesore. Mr. Burke offered to take care of it. Burke is such an agreeable man, isn't he? I don't know how I got along without him. I practically don't have to think about things anymore. He takes care of everything. I seldom even have to ask. He's a real go-getter, that one. We need more men like him if we're going to rebuild the world. Oh, no, I'm certainly rather sore about all of that, but certain sacrifices must be made. Besides, Burke assured me that bomb was quite unstable. I asked Burke to suggest they vacate. It was all a matter of time. Think of it as helping speed along the process of natural selection. Don't lose any sleep over it. Help! Somebody help me!
So the real story behind the Megaton nuke thing isn't that Tenpenny ordered it, he was just chilling on his balcony and he said how ugly Megaton was, and Mr. Burke gets up and just heads off to blow it up. Now, anyone familiar with that quest would know that Burke explicitly tells you that you cannot warn anyone about the bomb. All the citizens of Megaton gotta go. For anyone thinking this is Tenpenny's orders, they may also think that he ordered this too. But as stated in the dialogue, he actually told Burke to tell people to vacate. Now, of course, Tenpenny is still a heartless asshole, he still doesn't care, he just sees it as natural selection for the ones who didn't make it, which is ironic because when you do things the Roy way, he's actually one of the first NPCs to die in the tower. But it does go to show that Mr. Burke is actually the biggest evil inside of Tenpenny Tower. If Devin HD has a problem with Tenpenny, he should have twice the problems with Burke because he is the true evil within. He's a total agent of chaos that doesn't even care for human life, not even the ones who reside inside of Tenpenny Tower. And the thing is that if Tenpenny is dead when you do the Megaton nuke quest, when you return to Tenpenny Tower with Mr. Burke to, blow up Megaton, Roy partners up with him. At first glance, they have a small confrontational moment where Roy tries to intimidate Burke, but after that fails since Burke acts like a goddamn Daedric lord, Roy then asks what his business is. And I'll just play a clip of their interaction. I found it on TikTok, I don't have it myself because I didn't do the Megaton nuke quest in the right order. Sorry about that, fellas, but here you go, here's the clip.
The old man got what he had coming. Look, maybe we can work something out. You said you just have some business to conclude?
Correct. You and your friends may have killed Tenpenny, but the man gave me a task, and I intend to complete it. There's a detonator on the balcony. When that switch is activated, the bomb at the center of Megaton goes boom. That will conclude my business.
Holy shit! You're gonna blow up Megaton? No lie. Look, Bert, if you're about to burn down that smooth-skin shithole, I ain't gonna stop you. In fact, I think it's fair to say you'd be quite welcome around here. So what do you say? You do your thing and we let bygones be bygones.
Roy Phillips delights himself just as much as Burke in seeing an entire settlement of humans get blown up. And literally just because it's a settlement of humans, that's what smooth skins means. And my dude, Devin in HD needs to bump up his resolution to 4K and maybe get a pair of glasses because Roy Phillips isn't acting against bigots in Tenpenny Tower. He isn't just some little poor soul trying to find a home. He is the actual definitional bigot. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, prejudiced against humans. He wants them gone no matter if they're good or bad. Tenpenny could be convinced to let the ghouls in. Roy would never be convinced to let any humans in. At no point in Devin's entire video does he talk about this. He has a problem with Tenpenny enough that he delineates his bad actions in the balcony with a gun, but despite all this shit, he doesn't do the same for Roy. Instead, let's hear what his description is again.
This is Roy Phillips, an ex-cop turned ghoul who lives out of the subway station not too far away from Tenpenny Tower. So Roy's whole deal is that he wants to live in Tenpenny Tower alongside of the rest of the humans, unlike in the subway station like literal rats do, which is honestly totally fair. This place is massive.
There were a bunch of running zombie maggot farms, and I'd send them all back to hell if I could. Damn this combat inhibitor.
Ah, yes, of course, that's it. He's an ex-cop turned ghoul, and if you do this straightforward solution where you take him out in the tunnels, all you're doing is wiping out people who wanted a place to live.
Man, what the f*** is you talking about? I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about it.
Tenpenny might take some pot shots every now and then from his balcony without any regard for what he's hitting, except of course for all the groups of people that he's not allowed to hit because the tower needs to function. But Roy is even worse, okay? He has that demonic presence in him where he hates humans, and if the opportunity presents itself, he will take out as many as he can. There's a line in Witcher 3 where he says something like, "If I have to choose between two evils, I would rather not choose at all." I understand that sentiment, but in this case right here, when you have so many innocent lives at stake, I don't even think it's a question. The morality of this quest is clear as day. I don't know how Devin missed this. Maybe it's because he's skipping dialogues. I think that his subscribers should, I don't know, do some kind of thing where from this point on, every time Devin skips a dialogue, he has to give them one push-up. It is what it is. I don't make the rules, I just suggest them. Now, I want to move on to the next part of his video, but before we do, some of you might have a question as to, well, Des, what else is there? Like, hey, okay, maybe Roy is terrible, but that doesn't make all the other ghouls terrible too. Besides, it's a safe place in an apocalypse. Those aren't exactly common, so what's the alternative than trying to get inside? So let's explore that for a quick minute. Tenpenny Tower isn't the only place that you can live at, or ghouls for that matter. If you go somewhere and they don't let you in, at this point the only thing you should do, like, the morally apt thing to do, is to pack up and leave. Resisting and plotting to break into a place people pay and live peacefully in is wrong. Besides, there's actually no shortage of other places for Roy to try making a living in. If him and his group are capable of taking out a secured tower with a bunch of security, they are more than capable of handling themselves while traveling. There's Megaton, there's Rivet City, there's Oasis, there's Underworld, which is a city exclusively of ghouls by the way. There's hick little settlements too, like Arafu, where him and his ghouls could even join and offer to act as security, which the people of Arafu desperately need.
What the hell are you doing in here? Get the f*** out.
Or Andale, which is, well, I won't spoil it if you don't know the secret of this place yet, but I think Roy and his ghouls would be perfectly safe there. Also, there's Minefield. Minefield is actually a fantastic example. It's totally abandoned except for a crazy old man. There's whole entire, nearly intact pre-war houses that they can live in with comfort, and raiders and slavers are too afraid of going near the place because they heard ghost stories about it. Only one downside: there's mines. But damn, all you gotta do is be careful and either disarm them or detonate them from a safe distance. They could even rearm them on the town perimeter to keep undesirables out. Beyond these places, there's also, you know, doing your own thing. They could start their own farm, for example. There's ghouls that have done that. I'll show you guys later. They could also move somewhere in the outskirts, like Springvale. It's a mostly flat town with plenty of debris to try and make their own shacks from. There's even a couple of houses that they could maybe use. The location is perfect as it is right outside Megaton, which Roy and his mates can even head into for a drink at the salon before going back home. But Roy and his boys don't want to do any of that, because all of that stuff requires effort and work, which he doesn't want to bother with. He wants shit to get handed to him. But aren't there super mutants a bit north of there? Super mutants are notorious for not beefing with ghouls because ghouls cannot be used to make more super mutants. They only go to kidnap humans. I wonder if Roy would also find this bigoted and actually pick a fight with the super mutants. Like, hey, you bigots, why don't you ever kidnap one of us, huh? Can't you tell the difference between me and a feral? On the inside, I'm a person just like them. Same argument can even be used against Devin. He says something stupid like this later in this video too, but we'll get there in a second. Point of this little sideline is that there's no excuse to prey on the Tenpenny Tower and hold a grudge against the residents to the point of wiping them out. The truth is that Roy and his entourage aren't looking for a place to live. They're deliberately looking for trouble. They decided the humans of Tenpenny Tower had to die, and they weren't going to leave until they got it done. Because again, Roy Phillips is actually prejudiced against humans, not the other way around. But anyway, let's take a quick hydration break and then jump into part 2 of the video, which starts our dive through Devin's morals that he presents through his choices. So after that whole thing, Devin goes ahead and explains the second and supposedly peaceful solution to the Tenpenny Tower quest. It's not actually peaceful, but the game frames it as peaceful until everything goes wrong. I'll explain it faster since there's not much to note here yet. You basically go speak to Roy in the tunnels. Of course, you'll hear all his desires of wanting to storm inside and blast every resident, for which he would need your help to get a big security backdoor in the tunnels open. But you can offer him an alternative by telling him that you'll try and convince the citizens to let them in. He doesn't take this as a peaceful alternative though. Instead, Roy kinda just takes it as a delicious opportunity for him to get inside the tower without all the extra work. But nothing ever indicates that his original plan isn't still the same. Nothing ever indicates that Roy is like, oh, okay, well that would be great. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I just want to live in the tower. This is not Roy's character. He's an asshole, okay? I mean, just look at him. Look at his face. Look at this guy's face. What are you talking about?
Can't you tell the difference between me and a feral?
Personally, I think they're a bunch of rotting zombie maggot farms.
So you go back to the tower and you convince everyone to let them in. The vast majority of the residents you can talk to can be convinced very easily by basically either lying to them or making them feel bad about their assumptions about ghouls. We'll get into all of this with much more depth in just a little bit. There's a handful of residents that cannot be convinced as easily though. 2 shopkeepers, the resident's lady of the night, if you know what I mean, who is, banging a bunch of dudes every other night, and a husband and wife who are like the biggest, most uptight jerks in the entire tower. And so with them, you gotta make them leave. To get rid of the shopkeepers, you can steal from their safes at night, and this makes them leave the next day because they realize that the tower is no longer safe, and so they're not going to be over here paying rent just to live in a place with no proper security.
Oh, I can't believe it. With all of Gustavo's goons running around, they still let thieves come into my store and take things. I thought I was safe here. That's it. I'm leaving. I'll try my luck elsewhere.
For the couple and the lady of the night, you just go to the lady's room and there'll be a letter on her desk from the husband. Take the letter, show it to his wife, and she flips the whole way out. She gets her gun out, yoinks her husband, and then goes to find the woman and yoinks her too. And then she just leaves the tower. She just walks out like, well, nothing to do here anymore. I even recorded it so that you guys can see how ridiculous this all looks. Like, look at this shit, okay? She takes him out, empties another clip. Then this guy is literally just standing here, he doesn't do shit. Then she's running around, gun out, another guard just does nothing. She runs into Blondie at the cafe, wipes her out, everyone in the cafe is just standing around like nothing happened. This literally happens right here.
Tenpenny Tower is a wonderful place to live, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. I swear, man, this is that same hilarious stupidity in Oblivion too. Anyway, back in the game, so you got this dolt of a security guard just standing there the entire time with his back turned. What are you doing? What are you looking at? What the fuck? Let me tell you that, great security right here in the Tenpenny Residential Hotel. Only thing I'll note from Devin's video is that he had these details mixed up.
A couple of these guys own shops in the tower, and you can steal from them and frame them for their own thievery, which is like crazy. And then they just leave the tower because like they can't prove that they didn't do it. Susan, Edgar, and Mickey, however, need to be dealt with in a slightly different way. Edgar has left a love letter for Susan on his desk, like a total fool. And here's the thing. Edgar's handwriting is very obvious to Mickey, and all you have to do is snag the love letter, give it to Mickey, she reads it, loses her f***ing mind, which is totally fair.
Like, yeah, no, the shopkeepers aren't leaving because you framed them, they're leaving because they see that Tenpenny Tower is turning into a shithole where you can't run a business, so they leave. At least I never got any dialogue to frame them. I don't really have any dialogue at all. I just steal from their safe, and then you can't even talk to them. They just say, yeah, security in this place sucks. Tenpenny's letting in trash wastelanders. Which means you, by the way. You're the trash wastelander who they allowed in, and what did you do? You stole shit. And then you want me to be mad if they don't want to open their doors to outsiders. Especially outsiders that look like shit. You know what that is? That is called common sense. The security in Whiterun is terrible. Shameful is what it is. And in the case of the couple, yeah, the letter is not on their bedroom, it's on the other lady's bedroom, and the wife's name isn't Mickey, it's Millicent. But whatever, that's just an observation. But now in this upcoming part is where the sauce is thickest.
And then boom, you just tell Tenpenny that everything's solved, and he's like, yeah, absolutely, let him in. You go down into the subway and you let Roy know, hey, I solved your problem. And he is so grateful, so happy. All the ghouls move into the Tenpenny Tower, and life is good, real good. I wake up every morning next to the ghouls. I have soup, and you know, life is great for a little while. and you leave Tenpenny Tower thinking, gosh, I really did a good thing. I did a good deed here, minus the killing.
I never felt like that, to be honest. There's two mindsets when it comes to this. There's the video gamey mindset, and then there's the moral mindset, which is what both our videos are all about. The video gamey mindset does kind of go like that for me, because in these kinds of games, I usually don't like to do things the straightforward, shortest way. When it comes to that, yes, it's satisfying to do this quest in this second way, but from a moral standpoint, I never felt like I was doing the right thing because number one, I was never able to get away from the fact that Roy is a human-hating zombie who is no better than a raider. That's what they are in this scenario. They see a settlement with stuff that they want and that they aren't allowed to enter into, and instead of just leaving, they want to break in, kill everybody, and take it. So let's just stop coping here. They're raiders. It's just that they're also ghouls, and so they play on the player's emotions with a pity party that they do not deserve. The idea is, you start the game and you go to Megaton. The first ghoul you meet in Megaton is a sweetheart. He's a victim. It's Gob. He's a good guy. He's nice. He's mellow. He doesn't want to hurt anybody, and he keeps being mistreated by the customers and especially by his boss. Immediately, right off that point, you have this opportunity to empathize with ghouls and their perspective of being discriminated against. And so then these ghouls over here at Tenpenny Tower take advantage of that kind of relationship, that kind of perspective, to wrongfully judge the residents of Tenpenny Tower and to appeal to your humanity into helping them and getting them whatever they want. Trust me guys, I studied Tumblr cringe back in the University of Coimbra in 1725, and so because of that, as if by magic, some low IQ morons want to throw away every objective aspect of this quest and just paint the obvious instigators of the violence as the victims, and the people trying to mind their own business in the hotel as the villains because, oh look, there's security at the gate and they're not letting in everyone plus their mothers into the damn place.
What? You must be retarded.
Even the way that you convince people to let the ghouls in feels wrong because you're actively lying to people, or you're using this bitch-made rhetoric where it's like, no, you're not supposed to feel scared or uneasy about the ghouls squatting in the nearby tunnels who keep coming back to harass you and threaten you, because not all ghouls are like that. Seriously, this is how you ease people into letting ghouls in. You bullshit them or you make them feel bad about not wanting to let them in. Let me give you one of the most egregious examples of this. Remember the doctor I showed you earlier? He mentions how the tower is maintained safe, clean, and relatively healthy because they're very selective of the people that they let in. People have to be healthy and not be tainted by mutated genes, and so letting in ghouls would be stupid because it introduces disease into an otherwise safe environment. One of your answers that you can give to him is, sure, they look a little weird, but they're not diseased vermin, to which the doctor's response is,
well, I guess I must confess, I've never examined a ghoul up close. You're right. I shouldn't make assumptions.
Like, that's just a blatant lie. We just lied to the guy. Ghouls are definitionally decaying bodies. They took a massive dose of radiation that changed their biology. Their bodies don't even work like humans do anymore. Their organs are shot, their skin is peeling and rotting away, their senses are dulled out, their eyesight ain't so good anymore, their noses don't work, and even their pain receptors work differently. They got exposed bones, exposed muscles, veins, nerves, etc., perpetually wounded skin, and they straight up leak. Like my brother from another mother, look at them! They are in a constant state of decay, and that includes their brains, which are also rotting away until they eventually become feral. Some go feral earlier than others, but generally speaking, it's only a matter of time until they go neurologically kaput. Fallout keeps changing the lore about how and when exactly they go feral, and they also change the very nature of ghouls in the more recent games like Fallout 4 and 76, where they look vastly different than they did in Fallout 3, but let's ignore that for now and refocus on the argument. We'll get back to that later. The point is that they are a health hazard to any human environment. They are walking, talking open wounds. Their skin is necrotic, it's peeling off. That skin and those fluids from their body, like the remains of blood and pus, are breeding grounds for deadly bacteria. I even took the liberty to research some names which I will butcher right now. Staphylococcus aureus, Streptococcus, and Pseudomonas. I think one or two of these might even be flesh-eating bacteria. I don't know about you fellas, but I certainly wouldn't want any streptococcuses crawling up my ass. Like, my dude, I mean, this is a video game, I get it, I genuinely do, but there's only so far that suspension of disbelief can go without it getting ridiculous. So no, this thing we do to the doctor where we convince him that, nah, it's fine, they just look weird, it doesn't mean that they have diseases or would be a risk to the health standard of Tenpenny Tower, is bullshit. But regardless, you just made this guy feel weird about assuming that they're an obvious disease risk just because they're ghouls and he never met one. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. You got this obvious problem right in front of you, but it's socially or optically inappropriate to deem it a problem, and so you have to blind yourself and go, well, I guess maybe there's an infinitesimal chance that maybe it wouldn't be a problem. Just so that you can avoid being seen as a bigot. Oh, God forbid the stranger that just wandered into the tower thinks that you're a bigot because Roy told him that everyone in the tower is prejudiced against the ghouls, even though Roy is the one who has zero regard for human life. Oh, we wouldn't want that. Better to just let all the ghouls in.
What are you, Down syndrome?
This is how it goes with nearly everyone that you speak to in the tower. You're not actually giving them a single argument as to why it would be okay. You're not giving them security, like there's old ladies who are scared shitless of the ghouls. You don't ease their concerns like, no, baby girl, I spoke to Roy, everything is fine. He's actually a very kind and altruistic gentleman. He's actually barely even a ghoul. He smells great and he's a pillar of the community. In fact, I spoke to his previous employer and they told me that he single-handedly restored all of their faith in humanity. Like, no, none of this. You just walk up and you either go, look dude, I don't know man, I kinda like the ghouls, I never had any problems with one, and they go,
oh, I see. Well, I've never met one, so I wouldn't know. I just always thought, I guess I really don't know what I thought.
Or you blatantly lie to them like this dude, where you ask what does he think about having ghouls as neighbors, and his response is,
ghouls wouldn't make the best of neighbors, comrade.
And your response, comrade, I've met these ghouls. They seem friendly enough, more than this lot, and bam, you got him. He's in, you convinced him, he trusts you. Meanwhile, what is the actual truth?
I've been stomping around with Roy and his gang of misfits. Roy's a no-nonsense, take-no-prisoners kind of guy. He heard about this Tenpenny asshole, and now he's trying to get us in that tower. He's hatching some kind of plan to kill all those bigot bastards.
Like, what the f are we doing here? What about this should feel good to achieve? What about this is supposed to me feel like I'm doing a good action or whatever? Like, you're just lying to people to open their doors to wolves in sheep's clothing. You lie to Michael Hawthorne too. He expresses concerns. He heard about how ghouls go feral and lose their minds. He mentions this to you because he doesn't know much. A lot of the residents in the tower don't know enough about ghouls. You're supposed to help them, but your response can be, nah bro, I met these ghouls. They're civilized and pose no threat. What do you mean they're civilized and pose no threat? I find it hilarious how there's another option to just go, perhaps, which is sorta closer to the truth, but it's a dismissive reply, so it doesn't get you the outcome that you need for the quote-unquote positive, peaceful outcome, because anything that bases itself in truth throughout this questline does not work towards getting the people of the tower to allow the ghouls in, because you'd have to be stupid to do so. So you actively have to lie to these people, or guilt-trip them into feeling like their concerns are bigoted in order to get it to work and have them open their doors. This alone is not only the reason why I felt weird while doing it, so unlike Devin, I never felt like I was doing a good deed, but it's also the reason why I think this outcome in the quest is not put here as a positive one for peace. It's put here as one where you're setting up the citizens for a negative outcome. Otherwise, how do we explain the nefarious manipulative ways that we use to convince the people to let them in? It's either this, or it's like dumb options for dumb characters to feel good about themselves. Now, when it comes to the particular 5 difficult residents that I mentioned earlier, where you have to do things to get them to leave or die, otherwise they will vote no, it is as I said before, you gotta set up the married couple and steal from the shops to get it to work out. Their dialogues are actually really funny because you can try to convince them, and lo and behold, when you try to convince them, you don't do it by passing a speech check to make them feel better. Your speech check is about forcing them. You straight up go, nah, this is happening whether you like it or not. Deal with it or get forced out. And if you try this with Millicent and your speech check fails, this is a response which almost made me fall off my chair since I wasn't counting on that at all.
What? You must be retarded. Tenpenny won't allow that. I pay good money to live here. You can't just go pushing people around like that.
Man, I miss these older games where you could have funny, crude writing like this without nobody shitting themselves over the language or over who this is offensive to. Anyway, since we're here, I'll finish this part up by telling you what happens next. The ghouls come to live in the tower and things are kind of okay, but not really, not exactly as Devin describes. Right as you walk in for the first time, you can only find Michael Masters, who was Roy's gate guard in the tunnel. Roy himself and his girlfriend, on the other hand, are nowhere to be seen. If you go up to the top suites, you find that Tenpenny is missing and Roy and his girl are living in his room. Once you speak to him, he tells you this.
I'm afraid Tenpenny and I had a little disagreement. Not to worry though, he soon had a little accident. Problem solved.
So, yeah, I mean, Roy kinda just walked into the tower and the first thing he did was kill Tenpenny. Bro straight up took out the guy who went, yeah, sure, I mean, I'll let the ghouls in if everyone else is cool with it. And he did it over a disagreement. I think we've exposed Roy plenty throughout this video to make the assumption that there was no disagreement at all, at least not one from the fault of Tenpenny. Roy is just a straight up maniac that cannot be trusted and he wanted to take him out, pure and simple. Then very soon after, you can sleep out like in Megaton or whatever, just sleep for a couple of days and voila, when you return, everybody is gone.
But, and of course there's a but, when you first head back to Tenpenny Tower, you find Roy, but Roy and Tenpenny had a disagreement, an argument, basically the second that Roy walked in, apparently, and Roy chucked him off the balcony, I think. None of the bodies showed up when I did this last, so I think Tenpenny just... But, like, it's what he said, you know, me and Tenpenny had a disagreement, and I fixed it, and I said, you know what? That's incredibly fair. This guy shoots people off of his balcony for sport, and he's kind of an asshole. I'm gonna let this one slide. But if you wait a week and then you come back to Tenpenny Tower, you've noticed that there are no non-ghoul residents, aside from the bartender, this bartender here, who's a robot. So, alright, we gotta find Roy again, because what's going on? Roy lets you know that they had it coming, and that they're all in the basement, and that every single one of them is dead. Michael Masters says something along the lines of, hey, thank God I don't have a sense of smell anymore, because of all the rotting corpses in the basement. So when you go down there, every human resident of Tenpenny Tower is dead on the ground, and a feral ghoul is just kind of picking over the body parts. You go back to Roy, you tell him, hey man, what the fuck are we doing here? And Roy tells you that they had it coming, and that you should probably leave before he does the same thing to you. You do all that work, you do everything right, and all those people still end up dead.
They take everyone out, including even the residents had no problems with them at all. There was one resident specifically, Herbert Dashwood, who had known ghouls before, even had a ghoul partner in his adventures who saved his life multiple times. He respects ghouls and likes them. He doesn't even need convincing to allow them into the tower, and he even expresses how he's been trying to change people's minds about ghouls for a while now, but unsuccessfully. However, a note for posterity and for clarity, Herbert is not a fool either. Despite this, he still acknowledges that Roy's actions have been doubtful, so if you decide to take them out, he doesn't feel bad or get mad at you. He just accepts that it is what it is because he knows that not all ghouls are monsters, but that doesn't mean that there can't be bad people just like humans. From here, Devin just talks about option 3, which is the wildest one. It's basically Roy's initial plan where you find a way to open the escape tunnel, from where Roy unleashes a small army of ferals to storm the tower through the inside, while also shutting down the power to the generators, which ends up in an utter massacre. Which brings us to the third and final part of this video. Sort of. There's actually a fourth part after this one, but it's just a closing. Which is Devin's moral analysis of the quest and his interpretation of what he believes to be the intentions from the developers in terms of the message behind the quest and its themes. And oh boy, you fellas better hold on to your seats, cause things are about to get real stupid real fast.
So, the lead designer said that he based Tenpenny Tower off of the wealthy-only hotel in Land of the Dead. The design of the quest is that there is no right answer. Everything is kind of just supposed to be bad. I should talk about what this quest really kind of is. And obviously, I don't think it's super subtle, right? But that's just me. Ghouls in Fallout are people. And I think that's fact that some people just forget about because of the way they look, but they're people who got hit with such a crazy amount of radiation that their bodies just fell apart on them. Obviously, their minds are still there. They're still the same person that they were before they looked like this, but now they look like this. And despite being given such a bad hand from the nuclear blast, they're treated like trash. They get called zombies, they're told that they're not really people anymore, and they get shut out of just about everywhere. There's like legitimately 1 or 2 places that ghouls can actually live in the entirety of the capital Wasteland. Roy isn't some random raider. He's just a guy who shows up and gets told that there's no room in this building for people who look like him. He had the caps to pay his way, and he got turned away regardless. And that's because it wasn't because of the caps, it was because of what he looked like. And I think the most obvious read for that, as far as metaphor goes, is race. I think that's the most obvious way you could go about it. Housing discrimination, slurs, segregation, like that's all there.
So the bullet points of what he just said are: number 1, ghouls are people. Number 2, they're still the same people they were before. Number 3, there's only 1 or 2 places that ghouls can live in the capital Wasteland. Number 4, Roy isn't just a random raider, he's a guy who shows up and is told that there's no room for people who look like him. And number 5, the culmination of all of this is that it's a metaphor for race. We're gonna go through these one by one, but let's start by the last one. The metaphor here isn't really about race. Making it about race doesn't cut it at all. It's actually about species. Ghouls are a different species. They function differently than humans. They have different needs, different bodily functions. They interact with their environments differently, and again, they integrate differently because of their bodies. It's the same as with sentient super mutants. You can get along with them, trade with them, fight alongside them against bigger threats, etc., but you're still creatures that function differently, and so forcing cohabitation is only going to make it worse for both parties by breeding conflict. So making this about race is a huge mistake from Devin's part that is going to make him totally overlook objective differences between humans and ghouls that are important. Moving on to the people argument, they are people but they're different. When Devin says that they're people, the implication is that you shouldn't treat them any differently than you would anyone else who is, you know, an actual human. But this is straight up impossible. Like, there's what is emotionally driven and optically correct to do, and then there's reality. And I'm more of a reality kind of guy, which means that when I play these games and I get immersed in all that, I don't mistreat ghouls deliberately, like I don't dislike them just because they're ghouls, but you put a conundrum like this in front of me and I immediately see why the people of Tenpenny Tower, and myself included if put in a similar in-universe situation, would not want to live with ghouls. Because again, reality is that they look completely just... like, there's not even a strong enough word, dude. Ugly doesn't fit. Monstrous doesn't work either. A monster is a monster. This is different though. Ghouls are familiar but twisted, mangled, corrupted, and falling apart. This is the type of shit that would make you shit your pants if you suddenly enter the dark room and you flash the light around only to be jump scared by a scary ass ghoul looking fuck standing in the corner.
We're ugly. We turn feral and kill people. We gives the kids nightmares.
They look terrifying. As such, you can't expect some people to not be scared of them. It's not bigotry, it's common sense. And as I explained before, as bodies that are falling apart, their smell is legitimately unbearable. If you guys don't know what this specific smell is like, I pray that you never find out. Now, of course, if you're living in a post-apocalypse, you will have a higher resistance to this because you'll be used to it. But what you won't have a definitive resistance to is all those bacteria I mentioned before. That makes them walking, talking health hazards that are legitimately incompatible to live with humans, same as it is incompatible for us to have, I don't know, a bear as a roommate. None of this is bigotry either, it's just reality. And there's even other in-universe examples, such as, in the Fallout world, prostitution exists. And thank God for that. Representation of the world's oldest profession, am I right, fellas? Anyway, in Moriarty's salon, there is a lady of the night there named Nova who will pretty much get down with anyone. Man, woman, dirty, clean, young, old, whatever. If you got the money, she'll do it. But what she swears to never have done and to never even try is to bang a ghoul. Not even Gob. This is Gob, by the way. We talked about him a little bit before. He's one of the bartenders in Megaton. By the way, this is like one of the funniest lines of dialogue in the entire game. Like, you just stepped out of the vault, you walk into the first settlement you've ever seen, you find a zombie for the first time, dude's behind the counter, he asks you what you want to drink or whatever, and you can just be like, "Why, hello there, let me think about it for a moment, my good man." What the fuck are you talking about? Even Gob is like, whoa, really?
You're not gonna hit me, yell at me, not even berate me a little bit?
He's one of the bartenders in Megaton. He's a really sweet ghoul, really the type of guy you are actually made to feel sorry for, because again, he's mistreated by his boss and even by some of his clients. He's also kind of enslaved here. He has a debt to Colin Moriarty, the proprietor of the bar, and he's supposed to work off his debt, but he also has a room that he sleeps in, and so Moriarty is charging him for the room, however much he's paying him to get rid of the debt. So in other words, our boy is cooked. But so anyway, you know, he's mistreated by his boss and the clients because he's a ghoul, so he smells and he looks weird. Again, it's wrong, it sucks, but at the same time, it sadly is what it is. You can't change human nature, you can only do your best. So Nova, despite liking Gob, despite thinking that he's very sweet and banging pretty much anything that walks, still says that she would never do it with a ghoul no matter the money. This isn't bigotry either, this is just, you know, really, it's just realism. I mean, what, is it racism that a lady of the evening doesn't want to shag a decomposing brother? Devin is cracking me up with this stuff, man. I might actually peruse his other videos to see if there's anything else funny that I could respond to, since the games that he focuses on seem to be games that I spent an unhealthy amount of time playing in the past. Next up though, they're the same people they were before. This is also very shaky because ghouls are in a constant state of neurological decay. I'm going to pick up from where I left off before here. Fallout keeps trying to change the lore around this too. For example, the Amazon show has done this insanely stupid thing where now there's some kind of serum that ghouls can take that keeps them from going feral. And I'm not even going to dignify this by taking it into account. This is just another example as to why I don't make many Fallout videos despite it being right up my alley. The games I binged are practically dead. They were Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3. I played a lot of Fallout 4 too, but most of my time was spent in the, you know, the settlement building thing. And ever since then, I've avoided all the new shit. I didn't play Fallout 76, I didn't watch the Amazon show because I hate what they're doing. I feel like Fallout just isn't Fallout anymore. Like, no, sorry Todd, what are you talking about? Some anti-feral serum? You can't just inject that into your veins and somehow it keeps a ghoul from neurological decay. How the fuck would that even work? Their bodies are dead. There's even a big back and forth between the games where it's like the developers can't decide whether ghouls need to eat food or not and drink water. In some sources it looks like they don't, in others it looks like they do, but what we do know for sure is that their bodies are not normal anymore. Their organs, their biology, it's shifted. They are dead inside. There's even a whole unique dynamic of theirs that really makes them straight up incompatible with humans, which is radiation. It's deadly to humans, but with the ghoul's newfound biology, it can sustain them and even heal grave wounds. The point is that they are constantly degenerating. Some take a long time to go feral, others take less time, but their brains do change. In fact, Roy might even be an example of that. It would certainly explain his proclivity to violence and his total carelessness and zero regard for life or anything, really. If brains can degrade, their personalities can change. Fallout 4 isn't exactly a fan favorite game, but there's some stuff to bite into when it comes to this. This guy here, for example, is Wise Man. He's a ghoul in Fallout 4, and in one of his dialogues he talks about how the worst part of turning feral is that it isn't sudden. It can be a slow, agonizing slide where you slowly forget the faces of your loved ones, your memories fade and you gradually become more aggressive. The same sort of thing is present in one of the characters of the Nuka World DLC, which is such a bad piece of content that a lot of people don't even play it. But there's some nice nuggets mixed in there somewhere for those who do put themselves through the slog of beating the theme park zones. The name of the character here is Rachel Watkins, who watched all her ghoul friends lose their minds as she tried to desperately find a cure. Eventually, she started feeling her own mind slipping. So again, you don't just retain all your faculties and you're just the same old fella that you were before becoming a ghoul, your brain is actively rotting away. This obviously means that parts of you might subtly and not so subtly change. You can also remain mostly fine until one day some strong trauma or some spike in radiation can make you snap overnight, which is a dialogue that you can have with a ghoul doctor in Fallout 3, specifically the one in Underworld. Ghoul lore and presentation has shifted a lot though, so at the same time I'll give Devin a little point here because, for example, in Fallout 4 ghouls look significantly less scary. They actually look like you might be able to coexist with them because they actually have skin all over their body. It's just a bit off color. There's some scabs here and there, some marks, it looks a bit weird and dehydrated, etc. But they have skin. That means no bones or muscles or weird ooze is hanging out, no pieces of flesh dangling, no shit being left on the floor as they pass by, okay? In Fallout 4, ghouls look much, better, and doing this subconsciously made ghouls feel much more clean, hygienic, and relatable to people than in Fallout 3, which I think is actually lame as fuck, because it diminishes the weight that being a ghoul used to carry. With that said, none of this was brought up by Devin, and it is a video from the lens of Fallout 3, so that's the ghoul standard that we have to judge it by. Next up, there's only one or two places that ghouls can live. As I said before, this is just not true. Again, there's Megaton, there's Rivet City, there's Oasis, there's the Underworld, there's other little settlements that they can try getting into, like Arafu and Andale. There's places that they could build up and live a damn decent life, such as in Springvale and Minefield, so on and so forth. This is pure cope. This plays perfectly into Devin's next line though. Roy isn't just a random raider, he's a guy who shows up and is told that there's no more room for people who look like him. Boo fucking who. This isn't even an accurate assessment, this is a deliberately obtuse way of presenting it. We already went over why Roy and his ghouls don't fit into the standards of Tenpenny Tower, and we also went over how the residents can't be bigots because they can be convinced to let the ghouls in, much to the detriment of their own lifestyle which they pay a rent for. Not being allowed into a place isn't bigotry, and random humans aren't allowed either. Again, it's not because Roy is a special snowflake who's being discriminated against, it's because not everyone is allowed inside. It's as simple as that. You can think that that is rude, you could even say that it is heartless. That's totally fine and acceptable, but it is still nonetheless someone's right to dictate who gets into their house or not. And none of it makes Roy a little victim boy. Again, Roy is a raider. It's insane to me that this dude made a whole ass 19-minute video centered on this idea that Roy's actions were okay up until he snaps and sweeps the entire tower because of the way that he sees this as a story based in the metaphor of race. You can't have a house and say, no, you cannot come in here, my good man. Sorry, but that is just not possible. Oh, what's that? You have caps to spend? Well, while I do appreciate that, as you said that, your eyeball popped out of the socket, which is quite disgusting, and and your asshole is leaking onto the carpet right now. So, if you wouldn't mind, and if you could just get the out of here, I would really appreciate it.
But there's an entire other layer that's about body. About being someone whose body stopped working the way it's supposed to and gets treated like less of a person because of it. These are people who are in chronic pain, have lost senses, have been completely disfigured through no fault of their own, and the world looks at them and decides that they are disgusting, and that's the end of the story.
Because they are. Like, this is basically what Devin just did here, okay? Get ready, guys. Here's Devin's whole thing. These blue people are blue for no fault of their own, and they want to be red like the other people. But the red people just decided that they're blue, and so that's the end of the story. Like, my brother, you just can't change some things. You can't change biology or ignore obvious differences. The best way that you can achieve coexistence is to acknowledge those differences exist and doing your best to contribute your way into changing the way that people view you. Not by telling them that they can't acknowledge reality, but by showing them that regardless of those differences, you can still coexist. You can still share other values. You can still be a productive member of this wild, wacky, struggle-licious wasteland society. This is one of my favorite lines from Wiseman in Fallout 4, the ghoul I mentioned before. For context, in Fallout 4 there's a big city called Diamond City. Humans and ghouls used to live together there. Then, after one too many ghouls went feral and attacked people, the mayor kicked out the ghouls. Here's Wiseman's dialogue about it and how he copes.
Why did the mayor throw you out?
We're ugly. We turn feral and kill people. We gives the kids nightmares. All the usual stuff we get from you smoothskins. Now, it's true that there was one incident in Diamond City where a ghoul turned feral and someone got hurt. But I ask you this, how many humans have suddenly turned violent and killed someone? I've seen it more times than I care to admit. What if this place could be more than just a refuge for ghouls who aren't welcome elsewhere? What if it could also be an example of what we can do when we put our minds to something and work together? We want this to be a place that everyone looks forward to visiting, with smiling faces, good bargains, and great produce. Maybe we can make people take a second look, you know? Maybe then they'd see that we're not monsters.
It's clear in his tone that he feels like being kicked out of Diamond City was wrong and unfair. It's clear that he hates the fact that they are ugly and smell bad, that they give the kids nightmares and that they can turn feral. But it is nonetheless a reality that he accepts. He's not coping like Devin about, they're people too, they're just like everyone else, and then they got pains and stuff. Like, bro, shut up, it's a ghoul. You think pain matters? They sit on a couch, they get up, and a streak of their skin just peels off because it got stuck to the leather of the couch. Like, bro, did they get up and they just go, oops, man, I oughta put that back in, huh? Jesus fucking Christ. Like, there's a ghoul in Underworld called Patchwork. He straight up tells you that if you find any of his body parts laying around, please bring them to him so that he can stitch it back into place. Anyway, Wiseman puts forward a far better argument than Devin's entire video when it comes to the feral argument, and my favorite part was his mindset. This is the mindset of a leader, a man worth following, a man that is seeing past himself and working towards an actually better future. He was specifically talking about the farm that he's building. It's a full ghoul farm. Only ghouls live and work there, and they work to provide produce to the whole Commonwealth with the hope that his ghoul settlement can be a beacon of trust for ghouls, something that people can point to and say, yeah, sure, they're different, they do look weird, but in many other ways they're still just like us and they contribute towards the same culture and society that we do. Roy, on the other hand, he's a literal scumbag. He's a piece of shit that this dude can't stop trying to paint as a victim. Look at what he says about the other two ghouls.
Michael Masters makes a joke about how he can't smell anymore and how that's a good thing for him in this particular situation. But really, that's a guy who has actively lost one of his senses and is doing his best to make dark humor out of it to cope. Now Bessie, she's actually a very sweet lady. If you actually talk to her, she talks about how she used to be pretty and all the boys used to come around and how she just wants to feel normal again. These people are not monsters. These are people who got dealt the absolute worst hand in this entire apocalypse and are just trying to find a place to sleep and somebody to love.
Congratulations! You know what else Michael Masters is? He's the guy who tells you plainly when you first meet him that they're planning an entire break-in manslaughter. When he tells you about his sense of smell, he's also doing it as a jab, literally as a joke about how, bro, I'm so glad I can't smell anymore because we just piled up like 50 motherfuckers down in the basement. Oh yeah! Bessie, on the other hand, is the only ghoul character in Roy's crew who isn't a total asshole, although she doesn't object to Roy's actions after he wipes out everyone, so there isn't any positive moral character to her either. But yeah, anyway, at least she isn't telling you how great it is that she's about to yoink dozens of humans. Regardless though, none of Devin's Reddit-ass commentary means anything either. Like, what is his argument here? What is this face for?
And are just trying to find a place to sleep and somebody to love.
Bro looks like he's someone's dad or teacher giving them a stern talking to. Bessie just wants to feel normal again. These people are not monsters, they're just people who've been given the worst hand and want a safe place to sleep and somebody to love. Again, I remind you, the part of the video where he acknowledges that they kill everyone inside of Tenpenny's Tower is over. This is way after that. And even though later he acknowledges that that action towards the humans was a bad one, he's still doing all this reaching to try and sympathize with blatant point-blank evil. Like he's still trying to humanize the ghouls while never having done the same for the residents of Tenpenny Tower. Who gives a shit if you want to feel pretty again? You can't just break in and kill people. Am I going insane? Plus, this whole thing isn't fitting to the world of Fallout. This is the Wasteland. Nearly everybody has been dealt a bad hand. For example, the guy at the gate outside of Tenpenny Tower can barely walk. He's dying of thirst. Roy and his mates are doing far better than him because they don't even need water in the same degree. Also, they're tougher. They're gunmen. They can walk in somewhere and take what they want, just like how they did in Tenpenny Tower. Also, feral ghouls don't attack them. That means that there's a lot of places that ghouls can cross into and even habitate safely without having to deal with ferals. So there you go, two advantages that they have over a human. The worst part though, and I'm sorry, I'm still not over it, is this.
Roy isn't some random raider. He's just a guy who shows up and gets told that there's no room in this building for people who look like him. These people are not monsters.
They're not monsters, guys. Roy is just misunderstood, doing what he did in the tower and then also being jubilant about blowing up Megaton because, and I quote, "it's a smooth-skinned shithole," is just, you know, it's not his fault, guys. It's the discrimination of the world of Fallout that made him this way. Oh, you think I'm trolling and taking it too far for comedic effect? Nah, fellas, he implies this himself.
Obviously, the discrimination is wrong, but also, obviously, Roy is either going to march everybody into the basement and kill them or unleash an entire flock of ghouls the second he gets the chance. Roy can both be completely right about how he's been treated and also completely wrong in the way that he chooses to deal with it. And obviously I'm not letting the bigots off the hook. Tenpenny is a guy who literally just shoots at people for fun off the top of his balcony, and he's a piece of shit and he should die. But I think this has broad strokes of saying, you know, you treat people like they're evil or that they're an animal long enough that you shouldn't be surprised when this person acts a certain way or does a certain thing. So much for the tolerant left.
That's one of the dumbest and soyest things I've ever seen, and I hope that I will ever see in a video discussing morality. In fact, it's so weird that I hope that I'm misunderstanding him. I hope that there's like a fucking, I don't know, English as a second language barrier over here. Because the idea that you are somewhat excused, or not excused, but somewhat justified to do monstrous things just because some gate guards called you names through an intercom is insane. He later acknowledges that there is no right answer to the quest because he still feels like killing every resident is bad, thank God. But again, there's so much reaching around trying to humanize the ghouls, even Roy himself, who is very clearly as much of a psycho as Tenpenny, in fact he's worse. And so I just don't get this guy at all. I understand that you're trying to get at the whole angle of, ghouls being mistreated, but you don't have to defend all ghouls because of it. You can just acknowledge that this group is a group of assholes that don't deserve the kind of sympathy that you would award another ghoul, like for example Gob or some of the people in the underworld. There's some other minor stuff that I disagree on, but it's small nitpicky stuff, so from the interest of not making a very long video even longer, let's move on to the conclusion where we cover one last take of his on the nature of good and evil.
Typically, in Fallout, people have a problem, you solve the problem, everybody's happy, you get caps, and you go about your way. Hooray, yippee, woohoo. No, that is not how Wasteland would work. Everybody, I sincerely feel this way, that every single person in a post-apocalypse is going to be evil. Everybody. Doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, you're going to be a little bit evil. Because realistically, there are more evil people than there are not, and you have to survive the apocalypse.
I don't think that there's more evil people in real life than bad people. This is kinda giving Terminally Online writer cringe, but just take a step outside, touch some grass, smell the air, and I think you'll come to notice that there's far more good people around you than bad ones. Otherwise, you wouldn't really be able to step outside to begin with, or at least there's more people out there willing to cooperate with you, even if they're not inherently good. What there is, especially in recent years, is a lot of ridiculous purity testing and impossible standards from certain groups who label perfectly normal things as evil or bad or bigoted. For example, with what happens in this quest, where it's considered bad if you work your ass off, buy a really nice house, maybe with a pool and everything, and now, if you, who worked your ass off and bought that big house, aren't letting in any random homeless dude or crackheads who demand you let them in because, hey look, your house is so big and there's so much space inside it, that, yeah, they consider that to be bad. Because, oh my goodness, how could you not give everything that you own to the quote-unquote less fortunate out there? And this also entails victimizing the quote-unquote less fortunate the way that he victimizes Roy, even if the less fortunate aren't good people themselves. It's not evil to look out for yourself, to be cautious, to be careful, to be suspicious of others who might want to do you wrong. But some people out there in the world will misconstrue it as evil. I mean, there's people out there in the world who will misconstrue anything as evil. They'll look at this video and they'll probably call it evil too, because we are undergoing a very severe mental illness epidemic in this modern world of ours. And if you don't believe me, then you should check out my Subnautica 2 video, which to this day still staggers me. If I had to guess, this is why this guy thinks that there's more evil people in the world than good ones. Other than that, I can't really see what else it could be. But no, most people around you aren't evil. But in an apocalyptic setup, you can bet that most people will be looking out for themselves and their loved ones first. And so if you ever come across a tower where a lot of money and effort was put together to make it a quality place for people to live in, at least for a few families, and then you pop up and you pose a threat to them and what they have, even if minimal, then yes, they are more likely to keep their doors closed and let you in. And as shitty as that sounds, if you genuinely don't pose a threat to them and you just really want a place to sleep, you have to be able to understand that, because the exact same thing can happen to you. In fact, the same thing does happen to you in this game, in a way. Because you grew up safely within the walls of a vault A vault that has several skeletons laying out outside by the door. Skeletons from people who, over the years, tried to get in because they just wanted to be safely inside. Megaton's whole town was set up because of that. It was people who used to camp outside of Vault 101, hoping that someday they would be allowed in. Eventually, those people began fending for themselves, building their own walls, sourcing their own water, farming and hunting their own food, setting up their homes, their bars, their raggedy clinics, etc. In other words, the beauty of civilization taking form. Instead of that, they could have spent their time hatching plans to blow their way into the vault and wipe out every single innocent resident inside. Would it be fair and good if, hypothetically, a group of people forced their way inside and killed the lone wanderer and his father, plus his neighbors and friends? Just because for the safety of the citizens of the vault, the overseer wanted the doors closed at all times to prevent contamination and external dangers? Do all these characters deserve to die because they didn't let a few unfortunate chumps in? Well, you know, except for James. Like, you gotta use your entire brain here, not just a little part of it. You know, you gotta actually analyze what makes a thing right or wrong, good or evil, and everything else in between. And hey, I'm not perfect. I'm just a moron on the internet, but at least I'm trying. What you can't just do is spew out lame, emotionally driven Reddit virtue signaling, because that shit is incredibly dangerous. And the reason why it's dangerous is because it's a mechanism through which you can justify anything you want with sugar-coated expressions and redefined words. For example, when Gustavo hires you to take out the ghouls in the tunnels, he sounds like a total asshole, and he knows that he's asking you to do something morally challenging. It's just that he doesn't care because he sees it as the right thing. He sees Roy as a threat, if for nothing else than because he did make threats at the gate. He's not giving you a song and dance nor sugarcoating what he wants to do. He doesn't even talk about the residents' health and safety. He's just giving it to you straight. The ghouls are being a nuisance, they keep coming back, making noise and dishing out threats. It's making the citizens nervous, and he doesn't want Tenpenny to get nervous too. Probably because Tenpenny is goddamn crazy. So you go ahead, get a gun, go down there and take care of the problem. Take help too, because it won't be easy, blah 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 blah. That's it. But when Roy hires you to do the same, he masks the morally fucked up part of his request by manipulating you into believing that everyone in the tower is a bigot who deserves it. He even says that they shot at him, but when we get there we clearly see that nobody's shooting anybody. He's walking away in slow motion, my dude. But yeah, don't worry about that, don't ask any questions, just open the tunnel so that I can flood the entire tower with ferals and wipe everybody out. They deserve it after all. I mean, they didn't open the door and they called me a zombie. Oh no. When you give into these notions, you know, that demonize behaviors and subsequently people with extremely charged words such as evil, and you let them get in the way of objectivity, you will find yourself justifying monstrosities. Or you'll find yourself being manipulated by people like Roy, who were planning a monstrosity from the beginning, but your whole little fake virtue signal bullshit got in the way of seeing it in the first place. It got in the way of seeing that if a man buys a house, he doesn't have to let you in. If a group of people who pay rent to live in a closed-off property and don't want you inside, then it is what it is. You don't have the right to get in there just because you're a person, and so, oh, my human rights. Like, those don't even exist in the Wasteland. You are the only person who can enforce your own rights through your own capacity for exercising force. In other words, through your gun. It should be so easy to see this, but because of this dangerous mentality, this guy couldn't grasp it. Instead, his first assessment was that, oh yeah, of course, the ghoul would like to get out of the rat tunnels and come into the big hotel, and why shouldn't he? The hotel is so big and there's plenty of space. Fuck the rest of the context. It's stupid, it's dumb, and it totally removes the agency, responsibility, and accountability from the ghouls, who should have done like wise man and move along. Find a better place for themselves, or build it on their own. Or go to Underworld, it's actually really fancy inside. There's some rubble here and there, but it's mostly an actually clean and fancy looking place. Plus, it's safe. But again, Roy is a raider. Lastly, a final note, and actually a point of agreement.
Tenpenny Tower shows you what an actual post-apocalypse would be like, and it's, you know, you're walking into a situation that has been broken beyond repair way longer than you've even been out of the vault. And to walk into this situation just like you've walked into everything else thinking, oh yay, yippee, I can save everybody, is naive.
This is why this Devin HD guy is a conundrum in and of itself. Lots of really bad takes throughout the video, but his last assessment here was totally right, and if he carried it throughout the entire story, he would have arrived at much better conclusions. Like, yes, this is a broken world. Morals in the Wasteland are themselves very difficult to even argue or grasp. Words like human rights don't exist anymore, and there's a severe lack of godliness, which, despite me personally not being a very religious fella myself, I do understand that morals and standards in society that elevate fairness, empathy, and actual goodness in people do have a direct correlation with religion. So this is a tough world to be judgmental in, and the entire ghoul situation in the Wasteland, the discrimination underneath it all, the relations between humans and mutants, etc., are complicated and date back far before and far beyond your control as a player in a little quest. So yeah, it is naive to think that in a world like this, you can have a clean-cut, morally clear, happy ending. To quote my boy Johnny Silverhand, wrong city, wrong people. This is why men like wise men are important in this world, because they understand what must be done for things to get better. They understand sacrifice and the concept of working towards a thing that goes beyond you. Even if in the moment you are angry, even if in the moment you feel like it's unjust that you will be treated this way, the answer is not to escalate the divisiveness, it's to mend it. It's to trust that there's more good people around you than you give the world credit for, and that slowly but surely things will get better if you work hard for it. You don't gotta be an idiot and trade reality or safety for vapid, empty virtue signaling, or for dangerous notions that again manipulate, reframe, and cloud your judgment. You gotta be fair, but also smart. And that's it for this video though, fellas. I hope you enjoyed the ride. I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video or hyped it on mobile if you indeed enjoyed it. It really helps channels like mine out. We kinda rely on it these days. I know it was long, surely took me a long time to get all the footage I wanted and to structure this in a concise way. My notes are actually 2 times bigger than the video was, but regardless, I had a lot of fun putting it together. Let me know your thoughts below about the topic, but also the video in general if you'd like to see more of this in the future, covering quests and stories from games or responding to other videos like this one. Any feedback is deeply appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Take care out there.